Ga, 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 ga. I don't care what everybody else thinks, the Jackson Kong is better than the original. King Kong, the 2005 remake of the 1933 classic, directed by Peter Jackson, and of course tells the story of Anna Darrow, a theatre performer who theatre gets a shutdown in the New York 1933 during the time of the worldwide depression, and she's desperate for some work to feed herself, and greedy filmmaker Carl Denham is desperate to travel to Skull Island and put the lives of everyone else in danger to get his movie made, and he's desperate for an actress, finds Anne Darrow, can persuades her through great effort to star in his movie, and even gets screenwriter Jack Driscoll to tag along, even though everybody else is completely against travelling to Skull Island, the undiscovered island. He doesn't give a shit, and once they get to Skull Island, boy does shit go down from there. Anne gets captured by the natives and offered up to the ape on the island that they worship like a god, King Kong himself, who they gradually develop feelings for each other and a great friendship through saving each other's lives. And it's up to the rest of the crew to get Anne back, but in the process they cruelly capture Kong and bring him back to New York on Broadway. But Kong is pissed, Kong escapes, and which leads to the epic, astonishing climax, an iconic moment on the Empire State Building that we all know. Kong makes his last stand. So, yeah, I have wanted to talk about the Peter Jackson King Kong on my channel for a while now. Oh my gosh, I still love the original King Kong, and if you prefer the original King Kong, I'm not going to say you're wrong, because you are right. The original is a classic and always will be. But for me, the 2005 Peter Jackson King Kong is an absolute underrated masterpiece. For as much as I love the original King Kong, I do think it's slightly dated and has some areas that could be improved, whereas this is just an absolutely perfect Kong movie for me. This is exactly what the original needed, and I can understand if fans of the original can't accept this remake, but I think this remake was made at the right time, like 70 years after the original. So that's at least it's not too soon. And this remake, unlike the 76 pile of shit, is not just a remake scene for scene of the original. It has plenty of differences and originality in it, while staying faithful to the original. So if anything, this remake, I think, honours the original rather than detracts from it. And Peter Jackson is somebody who loves and absolutely respects the original King Kong with all his heart. It was the movie that inspired him to make movies in the first place.
I was 12 years old when I tried to make it the first time round, and I wanted to do a stop-motion animation version because I was a big fan of stop-motion, which is how the original Kong was produced.
Yeah, after he saw the original King Kong on TV, it really made him cry, and that was what he knew, what he wanted for a career. He tried, of course, to make it when he was 12 with a puppetry, but he decided to just abandon that because it was never going to be as spectacular as he wanted in his mind. So, but then he was offered to either remake Creature from the Black Lagoon or Kong, as which he obviously chose Kong, and they were originally going to make Kong with a claymation, but they eventually pulled the plug on it since digital effects were starting to come into play. So after the phenomenal hits of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, then Jackson finally got the confidence and motivation to make the Kong movie that he'd always wanted to make, with spectacular effects and a 3-hour running time. And it was fate. After decades of trying to get this movie made, it finally came to be. It was a dream come true for him. So this movie has a such a interesting history. And I was only 10 when this movie came out in December 2005, although I was too young to see it at the time because it was borderline 12A PG-13 races. But I'm glad I saw it later because it's really not a kids' film, lol. And yeah, so this is my King Kong for me personally. I know the people who grew up with the original Kong, that's their Kong, but the 2005 Kong came out in my generation, my childhood, so it's my Kong. But I'm not just I'm not just in love with this movie just for nostalgia. I really do think it's the best Kong movie ever made so far. And the biggest, what I have to get out of the way is that people have bitched and complained about this movie for years for being too long and the first hour and first act being boring and draggy. But you know what? I don't mind the 3-hour runtime. I think the 3-hour runtime is actually better than the original's an hour and a half runtime. This is as the perfect length. I mean, ask your, I mean. Ask yourselves this, without the 3-hour runtime, without the first hour that it took of the venture to get to Skull Island, would we have gotten the brilliant character development that we did? Wouldn't we have, don't we want to spend an hour on Skull Island because it's just so fucking cool? Wouldn't we be ecstatic, and wouldn't we want the epic climax in New York to go on for the last hour? So I think that's a perfect 3-act structure. I don't get the hate for the length of this film. I'm glad Peter Jackson does make movies as long as he can, because if a longer running time improves a movie's story-wise, I'm all for it. In fact, I wouldn't mind if this movie was even longer. But anyway, yeah, the character development here, I think, is so much better. What they greatly improved over the original. I'm so happy that Anne Darrow this time is the main character instead of Carl Denham. That's which makes for more gender equality. Yeah, Peter Jackson's great with giving women action roles, just like James Cameron. And I really feel for Anne in the beginning after her theatre has closed and in the Great Depression, and she's starving, she's desperate for work, and that's why she would be persuaded by Carl to journey to Skull Island and star in his movie. I mean, yeah, Anne Darrow as a character is infinitely better here than she is in the original. I still really like Fay Wray in the original film, but she did scream a little much. But Naomi Watts as Anne Darrow, she's absolutely amazing. Yeah, she had to interact with mostly CGI creatures for most of the movie, and considering this was one of the earliest movies where actors had to act like that, she pulled it off absolutely perfectly. And Jack Black as Carl Denham. A lot of people don't like Jack Black in this film because he's a comedy actor, but I think this proves that he can do drama just as well. I'm glad this movie portrays Carl Denham as the antagonist, rather than Kong, as he's the greedy bastard who just doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself. He wants to make his movie. He's desperate to make money, and he does not care if the rest of his crew lay down their lives for him. And Jack Driscoll is great too. I mean, he is obviously the love interest for Anne, and he's the bravest and most courageous and most sensible of the crew. And he's always looking out for Anne, and he's a great, of course, rival in the love triangle for Kong. And the crew in the original Kong, they were fine, but they could have been developed better. But this crew, I remember everyone, especially. I love the relationship between Jimmy and Mr. Hayes. And Bruce Baxter. He's a dick. He's so cowardly and pompous and selfish, and he's the opposite of Jack. And I particularly love Andy Serkis as the cook Lumpy. He's great fun. But the title character Kong portrays perfectly and magnificently by Andy Serkis. Why did Andy Serkis not win an Oscar for this role and for Gollum and for Caesar and for Snoke? why won't the Academy see a motion capture as acting? It is. I mean, I still have the Kong action figure from when the movie came out. It's cool, right? Yeah, yeah. And what I love is that they've made Kong a character rather than a creature. We see his expressions. We see how lonely he is. He's not a monster. He's just misunderstood. He needs someone, which is why his relationship with Anne feels so sweet and so believable, and they have great interactions with each other. It's funny when he's pushing her over, and then she finally stands up to him. Yeah, she doesn't take shit from him. She's like, "That's all there is. There isn't any more." And he just gets pissed. He just starts tearing shit up, and just they go their separate ways. But then he comes back, kicks the shit out of the three T-Rexes and saves her life. And and she helps cheer him up when she goes, "Beautiful." That is so sweet. You just want Anne and Kong to be together. There are many legitimate frightening scenes in this movie. This movie could have been rated 15. Screw the 12A PG-13 rating. It fucked me up as a kid. I mean, the natives particular are the most frightening in the movie for me, as my good friend Mr. TARDIS11 said in his review. Yeah, if I'd have seen that in the cinema, that would have given me nightmares for goodness knows how long. Yeah, the natives are scarier than any of the creatures on Skull Island, and the insect pit scene as well is just nightmarish. Oh my gosh, and Lumpy particularly gets a horrific death when the leeches, the carnictuses, just swallow him whole, and it's absolutely horrific. And all the crickets and giant spiders. This insect scene is done better here than in the original, where it was just spiders in that movie. This is much more creative, and this Skull Island is absolutely breathtaking in this movie. This is the best portrayal of Skull Island they could have possibly done. It feels alive. It feels like a living, breathing island rather than a set. You never think it's fake for a second. This is the same people that brought Middle Earth to life, so no wonder they did the best job of bringing Skull Island to life. And there are many classic scenes from the original done better here. We have the Brontosaurus chase. That's spectacular with the raptors as well, and the log scene. But the best action scene in the movie for me is easily the T-Rex battle. That is one of the greatest action scenes in any movie I have ever seen. I am being serious. Peter Jackson knows how to do action, and just Kong desperately trying to keep Anne safe. He's whooping ass. He's just and he totally owns that T-Rex at the end. He just opens its jaw, snaps its jaw, and then breaks his leg. And he stands up and does his victory chest beat. And when the crew rescue Anne and capture Kong towards the end, it's so fucking depressing. It's so heart-wrenching to see an innocent creature get treated this way, and just for Carl, just because Carl is a greedy bastard, putting money over the life of an innocent creature, and bringing Kong on Broadway, you really feel for the guy. But when he's had enough and he escapes, it is a fucking badass, where he's just tearing up New York, and when he's reunited with Anne, it's so relieving, and the ice skating scene is so nice. That helped. That was nice after they've been parted for so long. But then we get the film's defining moment, the brilliant finale of this movie, the Kong versus the planes on the Empire State Building. This is above and beyond the most perfect epic way to conclude this movie. Kong stands on the very tip of the Empire State Building and just beats his chest, and he's ready to battle. You are just rooting for him all the way. You're like, fuck those humans. Kong takes down 3 of the planes. Sadly, he can't beat them all, and although Anne begs them to spare Kong, they don't listen and just shoot him down anyway, and they share some heart-wrenching final moments together before Kong falls to his death. And Naomi Harris's reaction is just so emotional, and we're all in floods of tears when Kong falls to his death, and adding to the film's message about treating all nature with respect, and Jack comforts Anne, and Jack says the classic line, "It wasn't the airplanes, it was beauty killed the beast." Peter Jackson's King Kong is my favourite Kong movie by far, my favourite movie, 2005, and I will go as far as saying the best remake ever made. I give King Kong 2005 5 stars out of 5. Well, I love you guys, thank you for watching, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and stay tuned for my Kong Skull Island review. I'm very sceptical, but excited at the same time. What do you think of this version of Kong? Please comment, let me know. Please like this video and subscribe. I love making new subscribers, making new friends, talking to you guys about movies, really appreciate that. Please follow me on Twitter and on Google+, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, guys.